Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to the Feedback Loop here on Studio Live today. Now in this video, we're going to be tackling the topic of whether you should re-record your old songs. And what you heard there in the opening is one of the first songs I ever wrote. I wrote that in 1996 from memory when I was a wee lad, just 17 years old. That was a song called RATM. And we'll be talking a lot more about old songs, whether you should re-record your old songs, whether you just let them live their life, or do you grab them and try to breathe new life into those old songs? So welcome if you're here on the live stream, hello to you. If you're watching on the replay, hello to you too. If you get some value out of this today and you want to share it with someone else, if you think they would find it interesting, that would be great. If you hit the like button, if you like it, that would be great too. And if you'd like to leave any comments on the video to let me know what you thought or whether you think you should resurrect those old songs or not, then I'd love for you to do that. But hey, if it's your first time here on the channel or on a live stream here on Studio Live today, who am I and what am I doing? Well, my name is Pete and this is Studio Live today, where my goal is to help you create, record and release your best music. And I do that through a heap of tips and tutorials and gear reviews and songwriting and a whole bunch of other things. So if that's the sort of thing that's up your alley, then consider subscribing, because I've got a new video coming out every single day. So we've got plenty of content here, and I appreciate that not everyone likes everything, but hey, with something every day, you can look at it and go, do I like that? Nah, I'll skip that one, or hey, that's something that might interest me. So there you go. Now, what are we doing here today? Well, I'll give you a little bit of an outline of what we're going to get up to, because I know your time is valuable and you don't want to be hanging around if there's something that you're not really going to be interested in. But I hope you will be, because this is a topic that I've discussed with people a lot lately, and it's whether you should re-record those old songs. So I'm going to go into a bit of a monologue. I tend to start the live streams with a bit of a monologue, about 10 minutes, where I'm going to go through my experience and a few of my thoughts and what I think about this topic. And then we're going to look at the results of a poll that I had over on my channel. So I actually put up a poll asking you folks whether you think you should or shouldn't. And no, spoiler alert, it's pretty close at the moment. So if you go over to the community tab on my channel while you're watching here, you can still vote in that poll, because it's kind of neck and neck between people that think you should and those that think you shouldn't. So we'll jump into that. We're then going to go into the final section, where I'm going to give you 5 reasons that you should re-record your old songs, and 5 counterpoints, 5 reasons you shouldn't re-record your old songs. And as we go through, because this is live and interactive, I want your feedback, I want your comments, your questions, your suggestions as we go through as well. So for those here live, make sure you throw your comments and your questions down in the chat as we go. Let's jump over and just say g'day to the folks that are here live already. Hello to Storm Plays, welcome to you. Goth Demon 666, Jason Roberts, your first live stream over here, welcome aboard. Caleb Dilmuth and Darren Bryant, hello folks. For the folks early who are here right at the start, thank you. And anyone that's joining on the replay, as I said, welcome to you as well. So let's jump into it. Now, this is going to be a little bit self-serving, so bear with me for a minute, but I wanted to just share my story and my experience, because I would love to hear yours, and that's what I'd love for you to put in the comments. I want to know your history of writing songs, how often you dig back into that archive of songs, and whether you actually embrace the concept of every song must be new, and what you did in the past is like a time capsule. It's like a moment in time. Or are you actually someone who thinks, no, actually, I think you can revisit, grab ideas from old songs, rejuvenate, breathe new life into them? Because the thing is that we're all learning all the time. Like, everyone starts at zero. I say that a lot because it's true. Everyone's first song is their first song, and everyone starts at a big fat zero in everything in life. So those that are really experienced and really professional at things, I encourage those people to think back to what it's like when you're first releasing your first song. And that's what I'd focus on. Every time I release a video, every time I talk to folks about music, I just think someone is listening to this because they're about to record their first song. So that's sort of something that I keep in mind there. So my point there is that everyone is learning and we're all developing. So some of you may not have old songs to go back to. You may be writing your first songs, and that's cool too. But for those who have, like me, lived a few more years, then yeah, we've got a bit of experience with this. So here's my story. So I'm 40 years old. 25 years ago, which makes me sound and feel very old, I was in a band called Scarpa. So 3-piece bass, punky, alternative rock, grunge band, I guess you'd say. Very Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains kind of influenced sound. You heard it at the start of this, and I'll play another track later in the stream as well. Oh, that's something I didn't mention. Now, I meant to do this as a teaser because in YouTube land you're supposed to tease something at the end and say, watch to the end where I do this. But do watch to the end. I'm going to play you the first song that I recorded 10 years ago, or about 9-10 years ago, when I got back into recording. So you'll hear the very first song that I wrote and recorded kind of ever, which I'll play, and then you'll hear what happened when I got back into music as well. So we're gonna have a bit of music in today's show, which should be fun. So yeah, 25 years ago, band called Scarpa. We played a few gigs. We recorded some demos. We even had some studio time. I remember paying $20 an hour to go to some sort of stoner dude's house to record on what he had then was an 8-track digital hard drive recorder, which was like state of the art. Most people were still recording on tape back then. So that was pretty cool. We recorded there. And then we released a couple of demos, and then a demo tape, and then even a CD, which I still have the original copy of because I think it cost $50 to print one CD. So yeah, that gives you an idea of how long ago this was. So we wrote a bunch of songs together. So and a heap of those are what you were listening to before, and what I'll share a link to at the end of this video as well. You can go to my SoundCloud and check out all of those old songs, all those precious memories. So about 20 years ago, so about 5 years after that, yeah, life gets in the way. Music sort of takes a back seat. Everyone goes to university. People get jobs. People get wives and families and things. So Scarpa, my band, were kind of no more at that point. And then I took about 10 years away from music. So I wrote all these songs. Some of them were finished and released. Some were completely unfinished. Took 10 years off, and then came back into music around about 9-ish years ago, funnily enough, just after my first child was born, sort of in my early 30s, and thought, it's kind of ridiculous that I don't still play and record music. So I had a laptop at that stage, and I used software called Cakewalk Music Creator version 6. So Cakewalk kind of did the full circle. There's the Cakewalk Band Lab now, which is the new free DAW, which is apparently really good, but Cakewalk Music Creator wasn't so good. And that's what I used to create the song that I'll be playing to you a little bit later. But I got back into recording and started recording new songs. And immediately the idea came to me, hey, I should re-record my old Scarpa songs, the old songs from the grunge band I had back in the day. So I took to starting to do that. And as I was doing it, I was just thinking to myself a couple of things. By the standards that I was looking at now, these songs were pretty simple. I won't say they're bad. I think they're good songs. I enjoy them, and they're a time capsule. They're a piece of time, but they're different, and they're not the sort of style of song that I write now. And two, I couldn't do a better job of them. So I was recording, and I'm like, I wasn't able to capture that vibe. There was something about being 3 grungy teenagers with long hair and flannel shirts on playing this music live. Like we recorded live straight to, not tape, but straight to digital. I wasn't able to recapture that. So that was sort of my first experience of, hey, can you go back? Can you re-record? So I continue on, I record. I then start recording in Reaper on my PC, which is the DAW I still use. I use GarageBand mostly, but I still use Reaper a little bit. And then while recording in Reaper, I started writing new songs, but then I'm like, once again, let's try the whole go back to the well and record the old songs. Same thing, didn't really work. But what I then did is recorded a bunch of originals that I thought were okay. And, I was learning recording, so they were sounding okay, but there was a lot of flaws and faults with them. Fast forward, because I don't want to spend hours talking about this, I want to get into more detail. Fast forward to now, or the last couple of years, and I've been writing, recording, releasing music that I create in GarageBand. And some people say, why did you step backwards? Why did you go from Reaper to GarageBand? Well, the workflow just works for me. So that's why I've done that. And I kind of found my happy place there. And again, what I started doing then is like, do I go back and record those old Scarpa songs? No, I'm not going to make that mistake a third time. But do I go back and record those songs I recorded in Reaper and do that? And I tried that with a couple. There's a song I did called Be Cool, which I did in Reaper, and then I redid in GarageBand. And again, the GarageBand version, I just couldn't recapture that vibe that I had in the original version. So that's kind of where I've gotten to now. And my story is that my point of view on this is that I haven't had success doing this. So going back to that, what I have had success with though is taking little chunks. So when I listen to those old songs, what I'm hearing is that I've taken bits of those old songs or half finished songs, and some of those riffs, some of those bits of music are actually included in my newer songs. So I don't think it's a matter of saying yes or no, like just ignore the past completely and just move on, or vice versa, always go back and dig into your old catalog. I think you can kind of have it both ways. You can actually use some of the information you have, or some of the old riffs and licks and vocals and all sorts of things that you have in your old songs, and breathe new life into them through a brand new song. And I've definitely done that. I've definitely borrowed. When you hear the song that I recorded, again, 10 years ago when I got back into it, it's very similar to a song called Home, which is actually on my album. So the vibe of it, this sort of folksy country vibe, and the riff is very similar to that. So yeah, you can definitely borrow on the old songs that you have. So that's kind of my story. And I want to know if that resonates with folks here. Is that something that you're going through now? Are you earlier on in your journey? Are you thinking about this? So do you think you need to draw a line in the sand and go, yep, everything there is my back catalogue, and that gives me a nice view of what's happened in the past, and then everything moving forward is new? Or do you think that, yes, you're building up and you're going back to the well? The other point that I'll make here, and we'll talk about this more when we talk about the, why should you do it, why shouldn't you do it, is that I think not only does your recording get better over time, so your technique gets better, but your songwriting ability gets better. So the ability to write melodies, to write harmonies, to arrange good songs, to make sure that a song flows. The reason I mention this is that when I listen to my original songs, and again, you'll hear this shortly, they didn't have a flow. The arrangement was very boring. I didn't know enough about songwriting to realize that I needed to take it through in stages. I needed my second verse to have some variation from the first verse. I was very much like, hey, cool, I can copy and paste. So why don't I just copy this first verse and chorus and paste it here with just some different lyrics and words? And it sounded boring. So to revitalize some of those songs, I've realized that, yeah, the original song wasn't written that well. So is it worth my time going back in to try and take something? It's kind of like when you get a bad recording, and you know the old saying that you fix it in the mix. Well, spoiler alert, there's really no such thing as fixing it in the mix. If it's a bad recording, you can mix it, but it's the lipstick on a pig thing. You can't make it sound really good if your recording's bad. And Joe Gilder over at Home Studio Corner, who's one of the guys that I consider one of my mentors in recording, he says, get it right at the source. So record it well. And I would take that one step further to say, get your songwriting right at the source and make sure that you're writing good songs to start with. So you can tell there that I'm leaning more towards, yes, you should be capturing new ideas, writing new songs, because as your recording improves, other things improve. Your playing improves, your songwriting and your arranging improve as well. So there you go. That's my view, where that's only a 10-minute rant. I was actually stuck to time. I normally rant longer than I mean to. So let's jump over and see if there's any comments here from the folks here on the live stream. So Goth Demon says, I watched these and I think I'm going to release a song and I still haven't. That's cool. Again, everyone starts at zero. Your first song will be your first song. Excellent. Morning to Saigon Slick and the Boston Bard. Welcome to you, my buddies Ron and Brian, who do some great music and some great covers over on their channel. Definitely check those out. Caleb Dilmuth, hello to you. I haven't been making music for long, but I like to dig out my old songs and try to make them better. I did that, and one of my friends was very happy because he liked the old song and I made it better. Great point. And I'll actually be talking about, when I get down to the 5 reasons you should and 5 you shouldn't, I'll actually get down to that and talk about that. Because again, recapturing that vibe, and I know when I talk to my wife, because we met when I played in Scarpa, when I played in my original grunge band, so she has fond memories of some of those songs, more fond than other people that weren't as close to the process, because she came along to rehearsals and listened to us actually practice and play these songs. So, and I thank her to this day for sticking with us despite having to be put through that. But there are people that will have liked your old stuff, or they've heard you play live, or they heard you play this back when you were younger, and now they're like, oh really, you're doing a new version of that? And maybe that's a key there, is that maybe it's not about recreating it to make it better, but maybe it's about, like everything in music, different, making it different. And sometimes different is better than better. And I mean that, like, the best is not necessarily what you think is the best, is not the best clinical technical piece of music. It's the music that you're like, hey, that actually resonates with me. And it might just be because it's different from everything else that you're hearing, as opposed to being quote unquote better. So yeah, really good points there. And it is Ron there. So next Songs for God, hello to you. Thanks for all of your support here on the channel. Got some to work on, all over if necessary. So yeah, if you've got those ideas there, and I guess that's the other thing, is that sometimes it's not necessarily an old song, but it might be an old idea. And that's where I think you can do well. You can breathe life into an old idea. I think the less complete the original song is, the easier it is to implement into something new. I think sometimes as songwriters and creators, we get stuck in our old songs and we kind of slightly fall in love with them, for want of a better word. We're like, oh no, I really like that riff, and I really like the way it transitions here, and I really like this bridge. And then what you do, you play it to someone else and they're like, why does it do that? Or have you considered doing this? And you're like, oh, no, it's sacrilege. We can't change this part. This part does this and this does this. So sometimes, again, getting a second opinion, getting feedback on these things, and yeah, changing things up. Don't be afraid to change things up. You can only try it and it can fail, but you could try it and it might be better. So you can actually work on that. So Ron says that Brian and I are currently covering and rewriting a song Brian wrote 10 years ago, definitely experiencing some of the challenges you're describing, and we changed it up quite a bit. And Mr. Nimmo, a shout out, certainly shout out to you. Hello, thank you for being here. So I did see you chatting there, and yes, I forgot to say g'day. So hello to you and hello to everyone here live. Once again, if you are here on the replay, I'd love to get your feedback and your interaction as well. So if you're getting value out of this, drop a like on the video and also leave me a comment and let me know your experience, because as I said, this is just my experience so far, and my opinion may change. This is the thing. I think people, again, and myself included, we often get stuck in our own belief system, and we often get stuck thinking this is the way I'm doing things, and this is therefore the only way that things can be, and the only way they'll ever be, which is not the case, because you can continue moving on. In fact, side note, I'm mastering a song at the moment, and I put a poll on my channel saying, how should I master this song? Should I do it in GarageBand? Should I do it using online, using eMastered or Lander? Should I do it in Final Touch like I usually do? And you know, most people are quite supportive of that. There's a few people that question the ability to actually master in GarageBand, and I think that the answer to that, like songwriting and like everything else, is it depends what your end result and outcome is. And it depends what you're actually aiming for. So same with songwriting. You may be writing songs just to have some fun. You may be writing songs just to play to your friends and family and go, hey, I wrote this song. What do you think? And they go, hey, cool, that's good. So I think it's easy to get hung up. And the reason that my catchphrase on this channel is helping you create, record, and release your best music is that I think you can create your best music without a bunch of, real technical experience, and without all the best gear, and without using, a lot of information. You can just use your ears, hear what sounds good, create what sounds good, and then do the best you can from the technical side with the technical stuff that you have. And I think it's really important to keep that in mind as what is your end goal. Like I'm probably not going to win a Grammy anytime soon. I'm probably not looking to make $1 million and get a record deal, because, well, the recording industry doesn't even really work or exist that way anymore. But the challenge is sometimes, people get stuck in ways of doing things. And I want to put it out there. Don't be afraid to try different things. Try different genres, try different technology, try doing things. But the key is to do them, to start them, to get cracking. So I look at here, Ron and Brian, what is it, Saigon Slick and the Boston Bard. They're two guys that met each other in the GarageBand users Facebook group, and they started working on cover songs. Now they're starting to work on old songs of theirs. They're starting to write songs together and collaborate on music. They didn't sit around waiting for permission and waiting until they had all the best gear and like, whoa, we can't really do this. Well, we don't have like Pro Tools, and we don't have all the studio and a producer and all this stuff. They went, we both got GarageBand, we got guitars and mics, we can sing and record, we know what we're doing, let's get started. Doesn't mean they're not going to get better or do something better in the future, but that means they actually got started. So that's very cool. Alrighty. So what we're going to do now is I'll just have a quick look and make sure there's no other questions here, and we will jump in. Hello to Jade Star, who's here on the feed. Hello to you too. So Caleb says, I have to leave now, but I'll definitely be leaving my comments and opinions in the replay. Excellent. Love that. Looking forward to hearing that. Jade says, too afraid to let go of technology. And that was from a music industry that no longer exists. Exactly. Jason Robert, when I get stuck, I try something weird and see where it takes me. Chances are it might work out. Yeah. I wrote, not wrote, I did a video recently along those lines, which was something sort of very similar, that you could just write sometimes trying to write a bad song is the best way to write a good song. So sometimes you just try and write the worst possible song that you can and just see what happens. And sometimes you get gold out of that. So it's a fun challenge, especially if you're stuck, if you've got like writer's block and you're like, what can I do? Just write a terrible song. Like I wrote, there's no such thing as college. Like I just had this idea in my head and I'm just like, I'm just going to write down all the weird American college things that I don't understand. So I'm like preppies, freshmen, sororities, fraternities, beer pong, keggers, all these things. And I'm like, I'm just going to get all of these words and turn them into a song. And I did, and it turned out pretty cool, actually, in the end. And it turned out being a little bit more sort of deep, because I can't write a fun song that doesn't have a deep meaning. I even tried to write a goat song, and it ended up about being this like societal commentary piece, which is just weird. Anyway, Mr. Nimmo says, opinions on theory, Pete? Yeah, so theory, not to get too far off track, but it is related to songwriting. And yeah, I think it helps, to be honest. So I have a moderate background in theory, so I know my chords and I can read sheet music and I know, the 1-4-5 of the basic sort of rock structure, and I know the minors that go with the majors and all that sort of thing. Do you need to know any of that? Not really, but it does help. And I think my desire to be a lifelong learner actually is why that I continue to do that, and why I continue to try and learn more about theory and more about sort of the side. I like Rick Beato's channel. A lot of that goes way over my head because he's a really smart dude, but I love sort of listening to him rant about all these, jazz chords and variations and things, because that can only help me, like knowing more. And again, careful, warning, don't spend all your time learning, because you need to do some doing too. But if I want to relax and I want to learn something at the same time, I watch a channel and learn a little bit about theory. So theory is a part of it. But again, I wrote a lot of the songs back in the day with virtually no theory background, and yeah, they sounded okay. I think it can definitely help you out. Alrighty, so thank you once again, everybody there. Let's jump in now, because what I've got for you now, should I do that? Yeah, I'll save the songs to the end. We'll end with the music, because I want to get through these, and I want to talk about some of the comments that I've had here. I'll get my phone ready and jump in. Face ID, I love Face ID, so that I can read the comments that I've had here from other folks. In fact, let's do that now. I'll jump in and we'll check the poll results, and we'll see what people have voted on here. So let's just go in and take a look at my channel here. Go to the community tab. So what I asked people this exact question. So should you re-record old songs or spend your time writing and recording brand new songs? And I know it's a bit of an ambiguous question. So yeah. So we had 54 votes. Now, yes, re-record old songs. Just one. So 51% of folks said yes, you should re-record old songs, and 47% said no, only write new songs to record. So about 50-50 is probably what I expected. I think most people probably sit on the fence like me, or they're just slightly either way. So that's a pretty typical result. Let's see some of the comments we have here. So from Next Songs for God, who I think was here on the live stream. So what if they're super songs and I don't know what I was doing on an old iPhone 4? Yeah, so I've got the same sort of thing. So I think when you're first learning the recording, you're kind of trial and error with the recording process. So you're maybe not getting things the way that you think you could. And you've got old songs that you're like, hey, this is actually a really good song. All I need to do is actually record it, mix it, master it better. So maybe that's a very valid point, so thank you for your feedback there. John Vincent said, celebrate the old songs for what they are, a snapshot in time of your creative musical journey. Don't re-record them. Re-recording old songs creates a second version of the truth, and you'll be forever trying to decide which you prefer and for what reason. Plus, it looks like you're run out of musical ideas. I actually really like that comment. So a couple of things there. So I actually really like and also sort of dial into the creating sort of a moment in time and a back catalogue. And I mentioned Joe Gilder before. He says the same thing, that he looks back on his first EPs and albums and thinks, oh wow, I could have done this so much better. I could have done that so much better. But he also appreciates, and I'm the same, that that was a snapshot in time. So the first EP I recorded was actually an EP called Family. I recorded it on Reaper, didn't really know what I was doing. The songs are good, the recording, not so good. But would I go back and re-record those now? Well, maybe, but I probably won't. And the same with my first EP recorded in GarageBand, which was called Recoil. The same sort of thing. I listened to that, and I even, because I did tutorial videos about the recording process, I'm watching my own videos now going, you idiot, that's not how you do it. Really? You compressed it there? Why are you EQing like that? So yeah, I've learnt from there, and this is from someone who's been telling other people how to do things, I know. But it just shows that things change, and you keep developing and keep changing and keep moving on there. So let's have a look at one more here. So we had Fatract Vlog says, I agree in part, but who doesn't want to hear Kibu perform Crockett's theme? Oh, I can love both. Yeah, so maybe you're touching on covering other songs there as well. So breathing new life in. I think I probably misconstrued your point, but I think that's another thing is if you are covering even your old songs. So as Ron mentioned there, they're covering a song, a 10-year-old song that Brian, part of his duo, wrote. And yeah, you're redoing it, but you're probably going to add things. You're probably going to change things. And maybe that's the key and the secret is not to try and recreate something and just make it better, but recreate it and breathe some new life into it. So maybe that is the point there. Alrighty, quick drinks break. All right, so I've just brain dumped down here. I've said to myself, okay, have an argument with yourself, Pete, and debate whether you should or shouldn't do this and give yourself 5 points on each side. So point, counterpoint, let's go. So should you do it? So let's say you should. Let's say it's a yes. So if it's a yes, why? Well, because you know the material, and it makes it easier to play if you can focus on that. And this is sort of for the same reason that I like cover songs, and I like suggesting that when people are starting recording that they record cover songs, it's that if you already know the material that you're recording, it actually makes it easier to play it. You're not having to kind of write and create and record at the same time. You're just doing one. So you've got the song written out, you're re-recording it. So to me, that's a pretty good reason that you'd say, here, I recorded this rough demo 5 years ago. I'm now going to grab that. I know all the chord progressions. I know the arrangement. I just want to record it now that I know more, now that I've watched 100 Studio Live Today videos and I know more, I want to re-record this. So what's the counterpoint to that? Why should you not then? So the challenge is that, as I was saying before, you may resist adding anything new to the arrangement. You may have fallen in love with the arrangement you already had. And if you wrote it 5 years ago, you're 5 years into your songwriting journey. So you may be a much better songwriter now than you were 5 years ago. So you need to keep that in mind, that it might actually suffer. So if you wrote it 5 years ago and you thought, oh, this is just bad because I recorded it badly, well, it may be that it's not actually a great song, and it may suffer from the same problems it had 5 years ago. And you may quickly learn that sometimes a great song recorded badly is a great song, but a bad song recorded badly or a bad song recorded really well is still a bad song. So keep that in mind. Point number 2, you can correct the issues that really bugged you about an original recording. So I mentioned that I recorded songs that I'm really like. There's parts of songs that I've recorded that I listen to and I'm like, oh my God, I hate that part. I've either made a mistake that I never quite corrected properly or didn't record properly. My vocals are too loud because I do that. I always mix my vocals too loud. I have to be really careful to mix my vocals down lower. So maybe if you re-record them, you can actually make a better version that is better mixed, that doesn't bug you and doesn't have those same issues. On the should not side, I think, as was mentioned by the commenter there, I think it confuses the narrative of your songwriting journey. So it interrupts that moment in time that you've actually captured. So when you say, here's my song, and I kind of do this a little bit because I released my first EP, and then afterwards I got sort of a bit release happy with DistroKid, and I released an EP I'd written before that. And if you actually look at the chronological journey, it looks like I wrote an EP and recorded one, and then got much worse, and then put out a second release, and then got much better again, and release my album. So if you look at those 3 releases, it kind of doesn't make sense because I went back to the well and I remixed and remastered that original EP. Yeah, I think what I should have done is had the guts to release my first one when it was done and just go, yep, there it is, moment in time, and then release the next one, then release the next one. I think it would have given me a better story and a better moment in time that we could actually have. So what about number 3? So we mentioned this already a little bit. So you can connect with the old fans who have enjoyed your music and would like to hear a new version. So yeah, I think about this because again, the Scarpa songs, which I'll play in a little while from my original band, yeah, there would be people that would remember those. And if I did a new version of Sober, which was one of the songs that we had that a lot of people liked and we played live a lot, then maybe people would go, "Hey, that's really cool." But then again, maybe they'll go, that's good, but it just doesn't capture the energy of the first one." So maybe instead of that, maybe I actually do a new version. Maybe an acoustic version of Sober. You never know. So yeah, you can connect with your old fans, but why should you not do that? Well, yeah, there's a chance you might actually make it worse. Like there's that old saying is that you can never go back. And as nice as it is to embrace nostalgia and go back and do things again, sometimes you can just never quite recapture it. And you just need to leave it thunk as a moment in time that you can go back to review, but not go back to. It's kind of why, when you see those old renovation shows, they're like, "Oh, it's got the original paint, it's got the rust." Like I love American Pickers, and they're like, "Oh no, what a shame, it was repainted." And you look at it, you're like, I mean, it looks awesome. But what they're saying is you've removed that original charm, you've removed that original feel and look to it, and you've basically put the lipstick on the pig. Anyway, so why should you? Number 4. So you can test your new gear, you can test your new techniques, you might have new instruments, and you might be a better player. So you may have had a song that's actually a killer song that you've recorded, but because you were still learning guitar, because you were still learning how to arrange, you were still learning how to record, it's just a really dodgy recording. And what you can do now is take that song that's already a killer song and you can bring it back into the studio and you can re-record it at a much better quality. So yeah, that's 100% a legitimate reason why you would want to do this. And again, if I had songs that I thought were that good that were just recorded badly, then maybe I'd be doing that. I think my problem is that the songs I have previously are as good as, if not worse than, the songs that I'm writing now. And I would probably rather spend my energy writing new songs as opposed to revitalizing old songs. And why you should not is exactly that, so that you are probably a better songwriter now. Very few people start out as an amazing songwriter and then progressively get worse over time. It doesn't usually happen that way. Maybe a few bands, maybe Oasis. Maybe some of those, maybe you could argue that their first album, Pearl Jam, maybe you could argue that their first albums were their best, but they would argue that, hey, they've grown as songwriters and they're writing different things that they want to write now. So yeah, why you should not there is, yeah, you're probably better. And you may spend a lot of time trying to fix up something that's not actually really that good in the first place. And I know I have definitely done that. So, and the final one. So the should, and this is probably the best reason why you should, and the best reason why you should do everything in music, because sometimes we forget that music is for fun and music is to be enjoyed and to do things you want to do. And nostalgia is fun too. So if you just want to grab an old song and go, I want to do this, I want to do the best I possibly can with this because it's going to be fun to do that, and because I like this song and I want to revisit it, then do that. Like, absolutely, go your hardest and do it. Why should you not then? Well, it might not be as fun as you thought. So it could actually be frustrating, and you could actually go, you know what, I probably should have just played that, or maybe remastered that original version if you want to play around with it or do something different, or just release it. Like just go, hey, here's this rough and ready demo I did, I'm just going to release it. Put it out there on YouTube, or just release it to DistroKid as like the lost tapes of artist name. Something like that. So there's ways to have fun with your old stuff, like I'm doing in this video, as opposed to actually going ahead and re-recording things. So there you go. There's my 5 pros and cons based on my experience, but also some of the feedback that you folks have given me over the past week or so that I've been chatting about this. All right, let's jump back in, and then we're going to play some music. I know I've been teasing that for a while. We'll jump in and play some music for you. So let's come back to see what folks are saying. So Jade Star. So yeah, I remade an old song last year from my first album, 2002. Yes. So yeah, it can definitely be done. And yeah, Jade, I've listened to a lot of your older stuff and a lot of your newer stuff, and I like both. So continue doing what you're doing, and check out Jade Star's music if you haven't already. And who have we got here? So Jason Roberts says the original will still exist, sort of like remaking a movie, a reimagining. Yeah, so there you go. It can be a reboot. It can be rebooted of your thing. I'm just going to show Jade's album here. Sorry, she put her album in the comments here. So I'll open that up. YouTube didn't want me to have that there, because it doesn't want people putting things in, but I just recommended you go and check that out. So what have we got here? So next songs for God. Ever listen to demos versus studio versions from the best bands? Yeah, like it is actually kind of fun listening to that. And if when you become famous, when you become that famous rock star or producer that you want to, yeah, how cool will it be that people can go back and go, oh man, look at this original demo of this recording that they did. So yeah, maybe that's proving the point that you should be redoing some of these. Darren Bryan, hello to you. If you release a song and then go back later and record it again, can you remove the original release and replace it with the new one? Sort of no. So kind of, if you've released it to, say you use DistroKid, say you've released it to iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, you can remove it. So you'd have to remove the song. There's no replace kind of feature. So just like YouTube with your videos, there's no way to kind of just upload a new song file and it replace it for a number of reasons. Like if you're streaming a song or you've got a song in your collection and suddenly it changes, you may not want that. And a lot of artists that went through this big phase in like the early 2000s where everything was remastered. So a lot of people got all these old tapes and they remastered, and a lot of people really hated it. Like they bought these new remastered versions and they're like, I want the original. And what they did at the time is a lot of artists actually removed their original versions, and they're like, no, here's the 30th anniversary remastered version. And people are like, I don't want this, I want the original. So to answer your question, you can, but what you have to do is actually remove the release and then re-release it with the new version. So you can, it can be, Pete Johns, if I had my song called, what was my latest one, 6 and 8, and I didn't like it and suddenly I really wanted to re-release it, I could actually remove it, but what I'd have to do first is pull it from every store, and that takes a while. Like I'll tell DistroKid, remove this, and then it has to go out to every different platform, and it's on about 100, and remove it, so that's not going to happen overnight. And then I'd have to re-release it, and then if I re-released it as exactly the same name, there'd be confusion. It would get crossover and it would get mixed up. So you'd need to potentially change the name of the artist or the album, and I think Jade Starr actually did that with one of her albums that she re-released, as a slightly different artist name, just to give it sort of a new release, so that it actually did. Alrighty, so hello to Stomp Pie, hello to you, and Jason Roberts said excellent pros and cons, so subjective. I voted in favour of re-recording. The worst that can happen is that the magic can't be reproduced, but it's also possible you can capture something new entirely. Very good point, and again, I get accused of sitting on the fence and not having a strong opinion on things, but I think my opinion is fundamentally you do you and do what you want, do what makes you happy and what makes sense for you and your music. I just wanted to present some pros and cons because some people may be caught up in their old music and just never moving on and never writing anything new. I don't think that's the way to go. And other folks might be going, oh, I never want to touch anything that I've ever done before. And maybe that's not the right way to go. So there you go. Zach Mandew, hello to you. I've been debating this in my head for a while. After listening, I now view redoing songs the same way I view cover songs, that if you do it, you should have a different appeal and vibe than the original. I think that's a really good point. I think you've hit the nail on the head there, that, yeah, maybe that's what you do. You don't just try and recreate it exactly as it was. Maybe you try and breathe some new light into that. Alrighty. Okay, so it is time to play some tunes. How long have we got here? We've got about 20 minutes to go. We may not fill all of that, but we'll have a quick drink. I should be having the drink while I'm playing the tunes. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a couple of tunes for you here. So let's go in to SoundCloud. I'll dump the link into this album actually into the chat here now, and I'll put it in the description if you're watching on the replay so that you can check this out. So if you want to check out the original album, Depart with Haste by Scarpa, you can do that. But let's jump over here and take a look. There they are. Look at the boys. There we are. Yep, looking fine. Look at the hair. Yeah, I'd say I wish I had hair like that these days, but I kind of don't. So what song am I going to play? I'm going to play a song called Frogs, which was one of the first songs that I wrote. And it's actually, it has relevance because it's the first song that, because we were a 3-piece band and we played live, right? And we didn't have a multi-track recorder. Like I bought a 4-track recorder in 1996. Before that, we couldn't record multi-tracks. So unless we sort of faced off 2 boomboxes, we couldn't actually record anything. So that was, kind of difficult to actually write a second guitar part. I'd have to record myself and then just sort of be jamming a lead part over the top. So this song actually has a solo in it. So it's kind of the first song that I actually had a solo, and because we recorded it on an 8-track digital recorder, I could actually do overdubbing. I know it sounds stupid now because I've got 32 tracks on my phone and I can overdub to my heart's content. But the excitement of being able to overdub back in the day, was pretty awesome. What I'm going to do, let me just come back to my head here. I'm just going to move the chat over to my other screen so that while I'm playing this track, I can chat with you folks, and I will completely turn myself off. I think I can do that with this. There we go. So this is, I was going to say the world premiere. It's not really. But this is the song Frogs by the band Scarpa, recorded in 1997. Let's go. Guitar solo. I'll put my mic back up. I think every song we recorded back then kind of finished like that. It just went out with a da 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 da. Like, again, because we played songs live, we never wrote a song with a fade out, not that I can remember anyway. So yeah, every single song that we had finished with like a real sort of big power chord ending. So there you were. That is me, my mate Tom and Francis. Tom on bass, Francis on drums, and me on the guitar, backing vocal and lead guitar. I played rhythm, backing, and lead. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I think we got very excited when we were in the studio and we're like, we can overdub. That's so cool. Anyway, so there you go. That was the first song, pretty much the first full song that I wrote. The other song you can check out there in the link there. I won't play a bunch more because that'll be getting really conceited, and you can check them out at your own leisure. I'll put them in the description. But yeah, language warning on some of those, as 18-year-old Pete did like to swear a lot. One of them has a swear word in the actual title, which I've bleeped out on here, or I put some asterisks instead. So yeah, this is one of the songs that I actually tried, and I actually did a video. I'll bring the video up because it has no sound, but I tried to redo this in 2016. And here it is in Reaper. So I'm just come over here to my screen. So yeah, unfortunately, when I did this screen recording, and I did the screen grab before the stream here, it didn't record the sound. But this was me trying to recreate it. It sounded bad. It sounded terrible. It wasn't raw enough. It sounded too produced. It sounded like a 40-year-old man trying to be an 18-year-old man and trying to record a grunge song. So yeah, it just didn't quite work. But you know what? Maybe there's something there. Like, I actually kind of like the melody that I had there. Yeah, there were my drums. I was using Addictive Drums, and it was failing because the plugin hadn't been I didn't have the right key in there. Like, this is why I use GarageBand, people. This is why I don't use this software anymore, because you had to manage license keys and installer applications and all this stuff. And I was a good boy. I paid for all my stuff, but yeah, it was really difficult because you had to have all these things done. I'm trying to stop this now. Go away. There we go. So yeah, that was my original song, Frogs. I tried to re-record it, tried to recapture the magic. Didn't quite work out so good. So the other thing that I wanted to play you now, so this was upon my return. So I sort of played around and did some cover songs and did some of my original songs when I returned to things, when I returned to actually recording. But then I thought, no, I've got to write my own new song. And that's a song which is called Better Than You Are. And as I said, I kind of took some of this and moved it into one of my new songs, which is called Home. And I'll play a little bit of this for you now, and then I'll play my song Home, and you'll be able to sort of tell that there's a little bit of similarity between these two. So this is an example of where I did record something brand new, and this was like my return to recording. So let's take a bit of a listen to the first song that Pete recorded in a big person, DAW, as opposed to a 4-track recorder or an old digital recorder in the 90s. So this was from 9 years ago, and this is called Better Than You Are. I haven't listened to this in a really long time. And I don't need to play you the second verse of that one for the reason that it doesn't do anything different. And this was what I was saying before. When I first got into this, I had this big copy-paste kind of thing going on where I didn't spend a lot of time writing second parts or arranging second verses or second choruses to be any different. So that song just plodded along like that forever. However, what it did do is it kind of helped me write this song here that was on my first EP and also on my, there we go. It was also on my album because I kind of liked it. And this is my song Home. So I'll play a little bit of this and see if you can hear some of the influences from that original, very first song that I wrote that I took across to this one. It's a lot faster, but it's a similar sort of progression and sound. It's taking a while.
I've been traveling all so long, been a hard road, seeds I've sown have now I'm on my way home. Been a long time far away, made a few small and big mistakes. Now I'm
So you can hear that, yeah, there's a little bit of that influence, and again, it was I don't know where I get this country vibe and the sort of folksy vibe that I got from on those tracks, but yeah, it was something that when I was riding home, I wasn't even really thinking about, but I think I was playing that to myself as I was riding because that was one of the first songs I wrote in GarageBand was Home, and yeah, it's interesting to look back at that and go, the first song I wrote 10 years ago in Cakewalk, very similar to the first song I wrote 5 years ago or 4 years ago, Bump the Mic, in GarageBand. So yes, does that say that I'm borrowing from my past and I'm using things that I used in the past? Yeah, kind of a little bit. So yeah, I hope that wasn't too self-serving and you enjoyed that little walk down memory lane. It's interesting to look back, and the reason that I wanted to do that is to say that, should I re-record that first song, Better Than You Are? Probably not. Should I redo Frogs? Well, maybe. I like the melody. Maybe there's something I can do. But as a lot of folks have said here on the stream, if I do it, I should totally do it differently as opposed to, the same way that I've done it before. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens and we'll see what I do. But again, I want to hear from you folks because I think it's a really fascinating topic. And I think as songwriters, as singer-songwriters or producers, what we use and how new everything has to be is kind of questionable, and it's worth thinking about, and it's worth going, what am I going to spend my time doing? We've all got limited time. We need to actually do things the best that's going to work for us. So hello to Clearly Epic. Steve is here on the chat as well. We are nearly done here, so we're going to finish up in just a few moments. If anyone else has any other questions or comments, then drop those there. If you got some value out of this today, you had some fun, you enjoyed the conversation, love it if you dropped a like, if you shared the video with anyone else that might like to check it out as well. If you are not subscribed already, go over to studiolivetoday.com and check everything out there. You can also join the mailing list. So I send out at least once or maybe sometimes twice a week, just with a little bit of information about what I'm up to, maybe a few little exclusive bits and pieces on there. And you can also go over to studiolivetoday.com/gear if you're looking to buy some new gear. So if you do want something, you can head over there, and there's some affiliate links there that you can check out to all the gear that I use and recommend, including this microphone, this mixer that I'm coming through, and all of the other gear that I use to record as well. So that is going to do it. Once again, thank you for all of those who joined me here live. Thank you for those that are watching on the replay. Really appreciate you, really appreciate your support. I have a new song that will be out in the next couple of days. I've just released a version of that on the channel, which is the unmastered version, and I'll be mastering that in an upcoming video. So keep an eye out for that. Until next time, thanks everyone, and I'll see you soon.